Huh? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the XeroTalk chit chat show, as I call it. Not shit chat show, chit chat show, uh, or Chich and Chong, what do you want to call it? And today with me, again, after a long hiatus, is Nick from the Linux Experiment.
Hey everyone.
Hey yo, hey yo. So today it's going to be just a chillax discussion about the various things that have happened in Linux. And unfortunately, it's not going to be all roses and cakes and strawberries. It's it's going to be a little bit of a serious talk today because what's happening in the Linux world is not what we all hoped. It's a period. I hope it's a temporary period where Linux is having growing pains. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Uh, it's a weird situation because on the one hand we have like really good signs of Linux growing up, like the SteamDeck, Valve shipping Linux to consumer devices. We have like even Chrome OS becoming a real Linux distribution using the real graphical stack of Linux, shipping a normal Chrome browser, not a specific version for Chrome OS. It's encouraging, but on the other hand, like we're still in this transition period between X11 and Wayland, Pulse Audio and Pipewire, and like having NVIDIA graphics sort of coming up, being good again, but not really. And so we're in flux where stuff that used to work is kind of broken, but also like the system is picking up, well, steam, if I can say so myself. It's growing, and we've passed like 3% market share globally on the desktop. I think it's there are good signs for the progression of Linux, but the end result is that the systems we currently have are not as efficient as they were like 3 or 4 years ago.
Especially now with people there's something happening, especially on the desktop realm. When it was announced that X11 is on the way out and Wayland is on the way in, there's a lot of early adopters, and when you adopt a beta, sort of a beta software, too early, it's going to create friction within the Linux world, where people will say, "Oh, it works for me. It's flawless. So use Wayland. Go use Wayland." Where Wayland developers themselves, they tell people, "This is still work in progress. It's not there yet. It works, but it's not perfect. Use at your own risk." But then again, you have the sect of people for whom Wayland works for their use case, and not every use case is the same. Maybe they're just browsing the internet, they're watching YouTube, they do text editing here and there, coding here and there. Okay, for that, Wayland works, and Wayland doesn't need so much to work, but you also have applications that still refuse to adopt Wayland. Refuse, not okay, we're adopting it but late. Or they still refuse to support Wayland. That's it. They will not budge. I have a lot of applications that do not work on Wayland. They still use X Wayland, and X Wayland as well is not perfect, especially on KDE, as you said. But this creates animosity within the Linux world. And when you mentioned the SteamDeck, it reminded me that I am using XeroLinux on the SteamDeck, but not the way people think. I'm not using it to replace the SteamOS or have any gaming things on it. I'm using it as my desktop replacement because Lebanon is suffering from power outages and things. I need something with a battery, and I don't have a laptop. I only have a MacBook, and MacBooks are not supported on Linux very well, especially the touch bar ones.
Yeah.
So I'm using XeroLinux on the Steam Deck via an external SSD, and I just volume up power, select I told it to boot by default from the external SSD. I see Grub. But Grub is a little bit dumb when it comes to the Steam Deck, because it will show you two partitions or two entries called SteamOS. If you try to boot any of them, you'll end up with a black screen because it doesn't have access to them. So now I have to do the reverse. I have to hold the volume up button and then power it on to select the Steam Deck OS, not XeroLinux. Because I don't use. Okay, this is gonna hurt you. Because I bought the Steam Deck in February. You know how much time I spent gaming on that thing? 1 hour.
Not much, I assume. Yeah.
1 hour.
Yeah. Well, the last time we talked, you told me that you didn't quite understand why people were so happy about this thing, because, like, realistically, if you're a gamer on PC, you already have a gaming PC. So why would you play on the go on a smaller device that has worse graphics?
I was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this is another use case, but it's a use case that not everyone has. Like, if you don't care about gaming on the go and you're very happy sitting at your desk and playing on your desk, then yes, the Steam Deck does not bring much for you specifically. That's true.
Yeah, this is where I was wrong, and I will admit this, because I did travel with the Steam Deck and I did enjoy it on the plane. So now I see what's the use case, and you are one of the very few people who will understand the game that I play on the Steam Deck. Asterix, Obélix, buffez-les tous.
Yeah.
I recommend you.
That's a very French/Belgian game.
Yeah, and I recommend you get that. It's on GOG. It's hours and hours and hours of fun. I'll tell you why. Because this game represents all the volumes of Asterix and Obélix. Each act is a volume of Asterix Obélix. So you'll enjoy Astérix chez les Bretons, Astérix et Cléopâtre, Astérix le truc de César. You're gonna play throughout all these volumes.
For those who don't know what Asterix et Obélix is, it's a comics basically. I think it's written and drawn by Belgian people or French people. I don't
Goscinny, Uderzo. Uderzo.
And it's been a very long running series. It's like 30 or maybe 40 years old, and it's just the tale of two, like, Gaulois, which are like the Celtic people who lived in France at the time of the Roman Empire. And it's just plain fun. It's just small puns and jokes, and like they've got magic potion and whatever. It's just good fun.
It's a lot of fun, and especially that I am currently going through the book that I purchased when I was in France, Avignon, Fnac. Fnac is like Virgin Megastore, basically the French version. All the food that was used in the comic books turned into real recipes, and
fun. That's nice.
We cook them, yeah, and from each volume of the comics, there's a recipe. So I'm enjoying that. So, but what's good about this game? That's why I'm recommending it. Is the game is 2D but hand drawn 2D, just like the comic.
That's really beautiful. I love these types of games, because I have a hard time playing like pixel art games. Because
Same.
Like, yes, I did enjoy playing these types of games when I had like my Mega Drive. I still have my Mega Drive, my Genesis for people in the US. Basically a 16-bit console, because I enjoyed these games and I have nostalgia for these specific games because I played them when I was a kid. But today, playing a game that uses pixel art, it kind of hurts my eyes. I would rather have... I have nothing against 2D, but I would rather have like cool looking graphics in 2D than pixel art. I don't find it an art form, and I don't quite enjoy them as much as people seem to be.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I had to send Nick the video for the game because it's something not to pass out.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's. This is the only game I play on the Steam Deck. I will never play anything else because this is so much my childhood. It's And I see this, and I'm a realist because, as you put it, I did say before that the Steam Deck is not very too much fun to play AAA titles on. But what shines on the Steam Deck is indie games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indie developers have made 10 times what they used to make because of the Steam Deck.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just the perfect platform for these games because realistically they don't benefit from being in 4K 120 FPS or whatever on a giant like ultra wide monitor. You will enjoy them just the same on a small portable handheld at 720p at 60 frames. It just works. It's fun. And you have a better connection with the game when you have it in your hands. I think you feel that more with an indie title than with a AAA title. Because with the AAA game, you're always feeling like, yeah, there are a few stutters here and there. And yeah, you can go like 40, 45 FPS. It's definitely good. But you know you're not playing it like as a cinematic experience. And these games are cinematic. But for indie titles, they were never made to be like giant explosion of visuals on your screen. They're made to be small, enjoyable experience for like 30 minutes, 1 hour, and so they shine on the deck. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a link in the description below to something that Gaming on Linux mentioned, and he mentioned multiple times. It's called Devolution X. It makes your Diablo 1 and 2 experience. I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the originals. A much better experience, more like vampire, whatever it's called, the game that where you're attacked by swarms and
Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, it's a Vampire Survivors. Kind of it turns Diablo into kind of that because you're attacked by swarms. But what it also does, it ups the graphics. It fixes all the issues that Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 suffered from. They fixed the bottom thing and the mana, the health,
it's
and everything.
The alternative engine, like you have Open Morrowind for playing Morrowind. Instead of using the old original engine, you can use an updated one that has shaders, that has better shadows, that supports widescreen, supports controllers, stuff like that.
While being true to the original graphics.
Yeah, and it keeps the assets of the original, so you're still getting the same sort of vibe and graphics and quest and everything, but only the engine is replaced. So you do get better features, better resolutions, better field of view, level of detail, etc.
And that's amazing for the Steam Deck because
it's awesome.
But you need to own the games because you need the retail files, the files from the retail games, that the MPQ files for the music, the assets, the whatever. You can get it on GOG for so cheap, $9. $4 or whatever. I own both versions. There's if you go on BattleNet, you go to old catalog, you can buy still Diablo 1,
That's nice.
Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction. You can still buy them as retail CDs with a CD key. They send you the CD key.
Because you still need to enter that in the installer.
Yeah, I have them. They're on my games drive. I also own the GOG versions but the problem with the GOG versions, they don't come with the soundtrack. It doesn't play the music while you're in the game. They send you the soundtrack as MP3s to listen to afterwards. It's not embedded. So there's same thing with old DOS games. You remember Day of the Tentacle?
Yeah, you've got like something like DOSBox to play them.
Yeah, but remember those games used to come on a CD with something called CD music, where you can put the disc in a stereo and listen to track 2 and onwards to the music. So when you played the game, it was playing the music that is CD audio. When you download from GOG, you don't get that. So if you rip the original CD, it's like 700 megabytes or 300 megabytes for the game. But when you get the GOG version, it's 20 megabytes. Why? Because it's missing the background music.
They don't have the higher quality music, and so it's not playing.
It's not playing, and the DRM. And
the
rights.
And the other issue is that installing these things on the Steam Deck can be a bit annoying. I don't know if Devolution X has something like... so I know on Steam, you can plug in some of these old engines, just like you would use a Proton version. You can just go into the options of a game and select I don't remember the name of the program, but there's a program that does just that. Like you select it instead of Proton, and it's gonna load automatically the right new engine for the old game.
I
And
think
so I don't
I
know if Devolution X is supported with this.
I don't think so, but there is something like that. It's called Tinker or something in.
Yeah, that's not the one I was thinking about. But there's one program that does this. If you go on gaming on Linux, you definitely find it because
Yeah.
they mention it every time there's one of these new engines mentioned.
But
I don't quite remember how it's called, but it's a cool thing. Yeah, because
yeah,
installing the game, like you still have to install the old game somewhere. So you still have to go into the desktop mode of the
mm,
Steam Deck, which is like if you don't have a plugged-in keyboard and mouse, it can be a bit cumbersome with the
yeah.
touchpads. Not super easy, but once you've done that, you don't have to go into desktop mode to launch the game, create a launcher or whatever. You can just like create a custom game in Steam, a non-Steam game, and use it like that.
That's what I did. Oh, there is another game that I did really enjoy. On I don't really play first-person shooters on the Steam Deck or any console for that matter, but there is one that is super fun because it's BD, I mean comics style. It's called Void Bastards.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, I saw this one when it released. It looked really cool, really hard, but really
really,
cool.
really hard. I had to cheat my way through, but
Hey, it's
but
okay. It's a single player game. Who
yeah,
cares?
but the best part of it is you jump from, I don't know what you call them in English. I know in French because I'm French educated. From vignette to vignette.
Oh yeah, from I think it's a case from case to
Yeah,
case. No, maybe not
yeah.
case. Yeah, I don't know.
Square for
Well,
the
from square
squares.
to square in the comic. Yeah.
De vignette en vignette. It's really interesting. And it's all narrated. There's a narrator that
Yeah, that's
reads
pretty
the
cool.
narrator stuff. It's really fun. And the guns and everything, they're just like bubble gum and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
it looked really cool, really stylized graphically, kind of nice.
I
Me
love it.
personally, I just fell into Baldur's Gate 3, so I'm just playing that
Oh,
like
you
over and
did.
over
Oh, you
again. Yeah.
did.
It's really hard as well, man. Come on. It's like I remember Baldur's Gate 2 being very difficult at the time, but Baldur's Gate 3 right up there. It's super difficult. You're very punished for exploring the game. Like you are in an area, you can go straight to the main quest. The areas are gigantic, and you can go straight to the main quest. But if you start exploring, you can find some quests you can do, but some, like you're gonna face enemies that have like 600 health points when you have like 45 or 60. So there's no way in hell you're gonna be able to beat them, even using like everything you have at your disposal. You just can't. And so you're meant to come back later, but I find it really frustrating because I like clearing up areas before moving on. And it's not in my nature to just do the main quest and like gain 3 levels and then come back to do this thing. I don't like gaming this way, and so this game is very frustrating. But
I
also,
think
it's like insanely complex and nice, and I really love it.
they released an update where they said they're going to drop down the difficulty of the bosses. I have the GOG version. I Now that you say the areas are, I didn't start it yet, but because we don't have power, I don't want the computer to shut down while I'm playing the game, and I'm not
Yeah,
gonna run it on the Steam Deck because I want perfect smooth animation.
yeah. I think it works well on the deck, but I haven't tried it yet.
I need smoothness. I don't
Yeah.
need the
Yeah.
stutteriness and everything.
Personally, I play it on my like I bought a PC that I installed like Holo ISO, which is basically SteamOS on, and I plugged it into my TV and I play everything with a controller on it. So it's basically my SteamOS console, and so I play Baldur's Gate with a controller, and it works actually really well. I didn't think it would, but it does.
I would play it that way, but the problem is power. We don't have power,
Yeah.
so so if
Yeah,
you're
that's
in the
an
middle
issue.
of if you're in the middle of killing a boss and then the power goes off,
Yeah, and on PC, like you can quick save very regularly with
yeah,
F5, but on a console, like you're gonna have to press start, save game, select the save slot. That's it's not as easy.
it's not. It doesn't give you time. So if the power goes out, it
No.
goes out. It's not gonna warn you. So if I get lucky and I find a job in Dubai, then I'll delve into more gaming and especially finding ways to optimize XeroLinux better for gaming, knowing what to include, what not to include. Right now, I can't because I cannot play long stretches because of the
Yeah.
power situation. So the last game I played was God of War, and I reached a point where the game wouldn't launch anymore. So
Oh, yeah, it
Proton,
sucks.
Pro, no Proton, no matter what I tried, it wouldn't
Yeah.
launch. The problem that happens is the game launches. I get to the menu, I listen, I hear the music, and the game is in the background. So Latte Dock is on top of it. I have Windows on top of it. But as soon as I click and I make it the active app, it freezes
Yeah,
and
that
it no
sucks.
longer
Yeah,
works.
I played it on the Steam Deck. It was a really good experience. Like it was
I love
45
this game.
FPS at medium settings. It played really well, and I completed it on the Steam Deck. I don't think I ever played it on a PC at all, apart from the deck.
To tell you the
I really
truth,
enjoyed it. Yeah.
to tell you the truth, I have a 1080 GPU from 2015, not the most recent CPU,
Yeah.
GPU, but I was able to get around 50 ultra settings, 50 FPS ultra settings, because I dropped the more I dropped the settings lower and lower, the worse it looked. So
Yeah.
I was like, no, I need it full bore.
Yeah, and on the Steam Deck at 720p on a 7-inch screen, even if it's medium graphics, you don't see the pixels because
Yeah,
it's a small screen. But on something which is like, I don't know, 24 inches or 20 inches, you're gonna have problems. Yeah,
I have a
it's not gonna look good.
1440p 27 inch. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
so yeah,
notice.
it's not gonna look good. Yeah,
But and I love the story. It's a twist on the. It's a really nice twist to the Greek mythology. Uh, and me being half Greek and being raised on the Greek mythology by Homer, or Homer Simpson, but as the Americans call him, Homer
Homer.
is
Homer. Yeah,
yeah, because it's spelled the same way.
yeah,
So
yeah. But it's not quite the same level of poetry, I think.
yeah. So it's a nice twist, and I like the actor who does the voice of Kratos,
Yeah,
because damn, that voice is wonderful. I never played the
yeah.
console versions. My
So
brother
deep.
did.
Yeah.
My brother played the original games. He finished all of them.
I
This is my
have them on my PlayStation Vita, but I haven't completed them
I
yet.
have the ROMs. I have the
Yeah.
ROMs for, to play them, and that's
They're not
another.
the same style of games at all. Like they're more button mashers and combos and stuff.
Less dialogue. Less
Yeah,
dialogue too.
there's a lot less story and dialogue and a lot more button mashing. They're not
Yeah,
quite the same type of games.
but this is another place where the Steam Deck shines, is
Yeah,
emulation.
emulation and
Emulation.
retro gaming, absolutely.
Yeah, and not the way you guys think. When I say emulation, all people think retro deck or EmuDeck. No, wrong way of doing it. Wrong way of doing it. The right way of doing it is flashing another French piece of software created by the French. I love the French. They, especially in the Linux world, they created something called Batocera.
Yeah,
Batocera is the best Linux-based retro OS ever made. I am in the community, part of the community, and there's a French kid that I've been following since he was like 11. His name is. Let me tell you, I'm looking it up on my because yesterday he had a video, or before yesterday he had a video up. What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? He's French, of course. He's a French kid. I love him. He's so cute. He's so funny. What's his name? What's his name? The Mini Cake TV. His YouTube channel is called The Mini Cake TV. He's a very famous kid. He's been with Hollywood actors, apparently, because he has that in his intro. But the Mini Cake TV is a very good kid. He's part of Batocera also. So I enjoy talking to these guys. We nerd out in French. Not something I usually do, but they're French. You're not gonna speak English to them because they get lost. They get lost in the language.
Hey, I'm French.
I'm talking the young people at Batocera.
Yeah.
They're very young.
No,
This is
to be fair, a lot of French people struggle heavily
yeah.
with English. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an actress everybody knows in what's it called? Guardians of the Galaxy, the girl with the antenna.
Yeah.
She's French. So
Oh, really?
yeah, and she struggles in English. she got a lot of dialect training and how to enunciate the English words, but she does it only in front of the camera. Behind the camera, she struggles a lot in English. She's a very famous French actress, and a lot of French people I meet have a difficulty to speak English.
Yeah.
But in Bateau Serra, I've been with them since 2017. We've been working on this. It's amazing. You flash it on an SD card. It's dedicated. It's not like you have to go into desktop mode or launch something through Proton or do all these weird shenanigans to get retro gaming on the Steam Deck. You just flash it on. But the problem with this is you flash it on the SD card, but you need a huge storage to put all your ROMs. Yeah. Like I have 6 terabytes of ROMs. For example, where am I going to put all these?
Yeah, good luck finding a 6 terabyte SD card. Yeah.
Or you have to connect a dongle with an
external SSD or something. Yeah.
It's annoying, but because I have the entire library of PSP, PSX, PS,
but
whatever.
At least it's an option, and it's a good choice if you only want to do emulation and retro gaming on the Steam Deck. You don't care about Steam. You don't care about Steam games. Yeah,
you can switch.
It's an easy solution. Yeah.
Yeah, you can switch without having to touch the Steam. For me, I prefer to keep the Steam Deck clean. Specific for a certain thing, and then for retro gaming, have something completely separate.
Yeah, for me, the Steam Deck is an appliance. Like, it's something you use for gaming. Like, sure, it can be a PC if you want it to be a PC, but I would never use it this way. I keep it clean. It's for Steam games. I play Steam games on it. That's it. I don't think I even installed anything from the Heroic Games launcher or Lutris on it. I just have my Steam library on it, and I just play that.
This is why I installed XeroLinux on a separate SSD, so that way I don't touch SteamOS. And I'm using it as a PC, not really as a PC. I just browse the internet and compile a few packages that I maintain on my repositories. Nothing big.
That's a PC,
No, but
that's more than most people do on their PCs.
Well, yeah, because I'm a distro maintainer, but what I mean is in the sense of I don't install PC games and run them on XeroLinux, or I don't build XeroLinux itself on that thing.
It's used as a productivity system that you plug into your Steam.
I don't stream from it. I don't edit videos on it. I don't do all that hard work on it. I just open Ferdium to chat, and I watch YouTube videos. That's it. That's maximum not maximum, but that's mostly what I do on it. Because, of course, of the power situation, I have a full PC right under it. Yeah. But if I turn it on, the bill will go.
And if the power shuts off, you're losing all your work. At least with the Steam Deck, you've got a battery, so you can at least save and shut it down if you don't want to use it all.
Exactly. So the Steam Deck is very useful, and I'm glad I have bought it. Now I have seen the other side of the tunnel. Now, done with the Steam Deck. We talked quite a bit about the Steam Deck, something I didn't think we're going to talk about, but I want to talk a little bit about the situation between KDE and GNOME. You got KDE completely having their work cut out for them when it comes to Wayland, whereas GNOME have worked on that, got it done way before KDE did. They got it on the side, and now they're gonna kill every single extension just to upgrade to ESM. So when people say GNOME is better than KDE, they're not right. They're wrong, because if they got it better than KDE in the Wayland department, but they break their extensions and they keep on doing things without warning the people, and then people find out later on. Whereas KDE only has one point of failure: it's Wayland. It has always been Wayland with NVIDIA.
I mean, no desktop environment is perfect. So the statement that GNOME is better, KDE is better, Cinnamon is better, it's always wrong, because it's never better for everyone. It's better for you, for specific use cases, for other use cases, but it's never better for everyone. That's what makes Linux into a cool system. Because on Windows, you've got one desktop environment and one choice, and it has to serve everyone. And so it fails. It's not good for everyone, and it's not great. When you use GNOME or when you use KDE or when you use Cinnamon, you pick the one that fits your workflow the most, and it's best for you and your workflow. But it's not the best in general. There's no best system for everyone. Having a one size fits all never works. That's why a lot of people don't like Windows, a lot of people don't like Mac OS, because it doesn't work for them.
That's why the people who try to argue this are just being toxic for no reason. I call them they're bringing toxicity to an area where
Yeah, it's the usual human thing of trying to impose your preference on others because you want other people to validate what you like, because if they don't think that what you like is the best, then maybe you made a wrong choice. It's dumb, and you should not try and impose that.
Yeah, and we're not immune to that. We're human.
No,
like
absolutely
you said.
not.
We're not
Like
immune.
I'm a Flatpak and Wayland nerd. Like I will often say that these things are the future of Linux, but I'm not saying they're perfect for everyone right now. I'm just saying I like those things, and we're probably all going to use them in 10 years. I'm not saying that they're the best right now for everybody.
Yeah,
but yeah, sometimes you just want to talk about what you like, and you want to explain to people why you like them. And sometimes it turns into trying to convert people to your way of thinking.
Yeah, because I do defend KDE as much as I can because it is my desktop environment of choice, and the theme that is the signature of XeroLinux is a theme that you made me that I discovered because of you.
Yeah, it's the Lion theme that I used previously. Yeah, when I used KDE as my daily driver.
When I saw it
looks
on your
really good. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I still miss it.
Well, I talked to Vinci Lucci, the developer of Lion. I helped him fix the libadwaita script, and now I have a script in my tool where you can, from time to time, I recommend monthly at least. You hit that, you select that option, it will update Lion for you, not from AUR packages or Arch packages. It will git pull from source and install using
to
a
fix
script.
all issues, because the problem with theming is that you try to anticipate what every app will use as a widget, and so obviously when there are new apps or changes to some apps, your theme is going to break them because you can't plan for every single widget that every app will use. So yeah.
Okay, I'll continue.
Okay, so what I was saying is we have this sort of problem on Linux where you install a theme and it's like one time and done, and then you install a new version of an app and it's going to look broken, and no one is telling you that you need to update it. And so I think KDE has this mechanism built in. If you install an app through the Get New Stuff button, if you install a theme through there, I think it will update it when you do your system updates.
You're talking about Discover, which XeroLinux does not include, will never include.
Yeah, well, because I'm pretty sure Discover does offer updates to what you install through Get New Stuff, but you're still depending on someone to have like grabbed that and made a package and uploaded it to the Get New Stuff thing. If no one does it, then you have an old theme that will break, and it kind of sucks.
Speaking of which, GTK just recently got updated to 4.12. GTK 4. It broke a few themes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because they never supported them. They never said they wanted to support them. And they basically don't care because they don't want people to use themes on GTK, I think.
But Vinci Lucci was added immediately. He fixed it immediately. So did Elvira Lara, the Nordic theme developer, and Dracula, and so on and so forth. But Elvira Lara forgot to update one of his themes. The one I hate the most, Sweet theme.
Oh yeah, the one on Garuda, I think, like super colorful neon colors. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't think it's legible. I don't like it.
Same here. It's too neonish. Too.
Yeah. I can understand why it attracts people because it's striking visually, but it's really not my jam.
It's barely legible. The broken part is libadwaita, so basically nothing surprising there. But all his other themes have been updated. I don't know why he missed that one, unless he updated it recently. I don't know. The last time I updated it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I love when themes have scripts. when developers include an install.sh script into their themes, it's easier that way.
Well, at first I hated it because I was like, just give me a folder I can copy paste in my like .themes folder or whatever. But after a while, I was like, hey, you know what? I can just keep this thing, like do a little git pull, and then just reapply the new script to update what I use. Nowadays, I don't care because I don't theme anything. I use GNOME with the libadwaita default theme. I do theme GTK3 apps with the libadwaita GTK3 theme, which is not supported, but it does work really well. I never really had an issue with it. But I don't theme things anymore because on GNOME, you know it's a recipe for disaster. You're going to break things all the time. It's not supported, don't do it.
Yeah, that's what I did with Zero-G. Zero-G, I ship it with libadwaita, libadwaita GTK3.
If people want to do it themselves, sure, but I don't think distributions should theme it, unless it's like basically what Ubuntu does with Yaru, which is it's exactly libadwaita, they just changed 3 colors. And then, yes, okay, sure, like you're not breaking anything, the widgets are in the same place, the same size, no issues.
The only thing I ship with Zero-G is a custom icon theme.
And these don't really break. These don't really have a problem.
Yeah, and especially it's by Vinceluce. It's Tela circle icons.
I think that's the one I used as well.
Yeah, it's the blue one for GNOME because it goes with the libadwaita. Yeah, I have the full package. It's like 280 megabytes, but.
Icon themes are the only thing I do theme on my computer. I use the Cora icon theme on GNOME, which I think looks pretty cool. But
I see
about it.
Videos. But for XeroLinux KDE edition, it's just lay-in. And what I love about Vinceluce's script is it applies the workaround for libadwaita apps in his script. And speaking of which, your video about theming Flatpaks and the part about theming, the part that you added to the afterwards after somebody told you is the correct part. The one in the where you have to put something in your bash
in
RC
your bash profile.
It doesn't work. It keeps breaking, and
it worked every time I tried it, and that's what I used for a long time. But apparently, there are some edge cases where it breaks, and some apps will just basically, if the app cannot use your theme, it will just not be themed at all, and it will be completely broken everywhere. Whereas the method I pinned in a comment below is the correct one, because at least if the theme doesn't work, the app will fall back to the Advaita theme, and so at least it will be usable. It won't be themed, but it will be usable.
Yeah, and that one is a system-wide override. So the part you forgot to add is, on the pin thing is you have to include the part where you have to give it access to .themes in your home directory.
Since this was already in the video, I assumed it was
okay.
It would be done by the user.
Those I have what I did in XeroLinux was I have in my tool, when you go into a section called More Tweaks, option 1 is activate Flatpak theming. For those people who use I don't want to force it on people on the system by default out of the box, because not everyone uses Flatpaks. So the option is there.
And even if they use Flatpak, maybe they don't want to risk breaking things.
Yeah, so I put it as an optional thing. They do it, and what it does, it runs a script that does exactly those overrides. That's it, done, and you got your Flatpaks working.
Generally, on the topic of theming, I think people get way too crazy about this. Like, you've got so many desktops you can theme on Linux. You've got Cinnamon, you've got like XFC, you've got Mate, you've got KDE. If you want to theme things and customize things to your liking, you have all the options. Why do you want to force GNOME to be themed when you have so many other options that you can use if you like theming and customization? Like, they clearly say, we don't support themes. You can do it, but it's a hack, it's gonna break, and we'll never support it. So if you really want to customize everything, just don't use GNOME. You can make KDE look like GNOME. You can make XFC or Mate look and behave like GNOME. If you really like the default vanilla GNOME interface, use another desktop and replicate that with that desktop, and then apply your themes to all the apps.
Yeah, I agree with that one 100%. XeroLinux although XeroLinux was had the tagline. It was known as the eye candy lover's wet dream tagline thing, but I quickly realized that there are the desktop environments and window managers for that, whereas GNOME is not the right place to do it because
It's not made for that.
yeah, I got somewhat attacked, but not really attacked, but scolded. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way. I got scolded by a random GTK developer when I mentioned created a guide on how to properly theme libadwaita apps. Should you want to? I did mention in the video. Should you want to? I got scolded by that guy. He was like, he sent me the link. Please don't theme our apps.app, whatever website. He linked me to that, and I was like, yeah, I didn't tell I'm not a distro that's encouraging people to theme GNOME.
Yeah. I'm
just
just saying, if you really want to do it, here's a way. But
here's the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
And
what's interesting is that this like open letter, don't theme my apps, it was addressed to distributions. Like it's like, hey, distros, please stop shipping a custom theme that replaces our branding, that breaks our apps. And I totally understand this sentiment. Like we work hard making something that's good, that works well with the default theme, and we would like our app when it's shipped by default in a distro to not be broken. So please stop. But when it's the user, like it's the user's decision. They do it if they want. Like why attack users if they decide to theme? Just theme your things if you want to, but be aware that it might break.
By attacking the user, they're acting exactly like Apple. This is what they're acting like Apple.
Yeah, that's kind of the same behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, stop that. Okay, he was talking to me because he knew I had my own distro. He was against me as a distribution, recommending that they theme their apps.
But it wasn't a recommendation. It was a how.
I told him, did you watch the video? He was like, no, I just saw the title. I was okay, watch the video.
Okay, then your comment is irrelevant and and goodbye.
And he was a GTK developer who had 2 followers on GitHub. So I'm like, huh? What the hell? So
yeah, this is overreaction.
Yeah, it's those kind of things that, as a distro maintainer, discourage you sometimes from continuing the work you're doing on your distro, because you put it in your head that, what am I doing? I'm sharing my hard work with opinionated people who will always find places or issues to attack me for no other reason but to do it because they want to show off or something. No constructive criticism, no useful remarks, nothing. It's like, you're doing it wrong. Do this. You should do it that way. If you don't do it that way, then you're a loser. I'm like,
yeah, it's probably always been the case in the Linux and open source community. Like when I started using Linux, it was in 2006 with Ubuntu, and at the time I participated in the Ubuntu French forums. I had the pseudonym Randall, and with 2 like @ symbols, and I saw a lot of that. Like I remember sharing a wiki page about how to install NDis wrapper to get your Wi-Fi drivers on a laptop and whatever. And people were like, "Oh, don't do this. It's a Windows driver. Like it's bad. You should not use this laptop at all." Are you dumb? Like I'm trying to help people to make their existing hardware work, to actively move to a system that we all like. And like you're gonna say it's not good because yes, it does use a file from a proprietary Windows driver. Who cares? It works for the user. They'll do it if they want. It's always been the case, but I think it's getting worse. Probably because like the general world of opinions is getting worse. Like people are always so divided on everything and always just picking a side on everything. No one wants to just say, you know what? I don't know. I'm okay with that. I'm just looking for options. You've got very vocal people on both sides of every issue. And so it always turns into attacks, into conflict. And it's really, really exhausting.
Yeah, look at Debian. They changed their whole conduct thing. where they now have their own proprietary PPA or repository
Yeah.
or whatever it's called,
Yeah,
PPA.
it's not officially part of Debian, but it's there if you need it. Yeah.
It's there if you need it. So before they were split between different ISOs, different whatever. Now it's there. Anybody can use because they
Yeah.
finally understood that there's no escaping proprietary hardware.
Yeah. And it's way easier for users. It's a net
Yeah,
positive in every way. Yeah.
exactly. But no, the Libre zealots will attack it for no apparent reason. Okay, but it's like DT. I need to scold him for that on our next Patreon cast. I need to scold him for that because he made a video attacking people who refuse to call Linux GNU Linux.
Oh yeah,
But
that old boat. Yeah, this
yeah,
has sailed a while ago. Who cares? It's semantics. Nobody cares. Everyone knows. When you say I use Linux, people know you don't just use a kernel. They know you use a distro. It's
no,
so
and
dumb. Yeah. Oh
his
god.
attack came from like Chrome OS. Chrome OS is based on Linux. You should not call it Chrome OS. You should call it Linux, GNU Linux. And then, but if you look back in all his videos, he calls GNU Linux Linux himself.
Yeah,
So I'm
and
like,
I'm not even sure that Chrome OS uses the GNU tools. Maybe they do, but I'm not sure they do. Like, there
like
are some distributions that don't use GNU. I think Alpine Linux is not GNU/Linux. It's just
just the
a
kernel. Yeah.
Linux-based system. So, and again, it's just semantics. Nobody, when they decide to say, "Hey, I use Linux," no one is attacking GNU, saying GNU doesn't matter, so I don't mention it. It's not a voluntary attack on GNU.
It's
It's just saying GNU/Linux is longer, it's annoying, and no one knows what you're talking about when you talk to regular
it's
people.
it's
It
like
will never take off. No one will ever say that.
yeah, it's like gnome, gnome, gnome,
Yeah, who
gnome,
cares?
and
Who cares?
it's
Like,
it's it's.
yeah, I read an old page on an old FAQ saying you're supposed to pronounce it GNOME, but even the GNOME developers at the end say, but anyway, it's just a project, who cares? Like, pronounce it however you want.
like
And still to
Linus
this
and
day, yeah, I still get comments saying, no, it's not GNOME. Like, yes, officially, yes, it is, so shut up. And second, who cares? Why do you come online to discuss these
even
things? Why?
Linus, they asked him, "Do you prefer to be called Linus or Linus?" He was
Yeah.
like, "I don't give a damn."
Yeah, who cares? I know you're talking to me. Who cares? Like, why? It's okay.
This is what I'm talking about. Like they will find anything
Yeah, to
to
just
create a
pick a
debate.
bone and just create the debate, and it's very annoying, and it's getting tiring. At the same time, I'm having a lot of fun on most days, just
Yeah,
messing with people who get attached to these things. Like when I write a video script or when I record something, sometimes I want to like mispronounce stuff on purpose just to trigger people, and then I'm like, okay, no, don't do it. Like you're gonna regret it when you read the comments.
but
But I
you
just
are
find it fun sometimes.
as a content creator, but me as a distro maintainer who is in contact with the other side
Yeah.
of Linux. Like I the tool that I use is a fork. Sorry, is a fork of Manjaro's welcome tool, but the XeroLinux way. The developer who created it for me helped me a lot. Thank you, but when I came back to him and I asked him, "Oh, dude, I don't know how," because it's Rust and Python, so with some parts of React and whatever for the No, it's done with some app. I forgot the name of it. I went back to him. I told him I don't know how to add buttons. I can know how to modify buttons to do other things, but how do I add buttons? He was like, "I can help you, but I don't want to." He just left me high and dry. So now every now and again, I change what a old button used to do instead of adding a new one because I don't know how to add a new one and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people like that. They help you to gain notoriety, whatever it's called, notoriété. Don't know. The pronunciation in English is kind of weird, but they gain that, then they leave you high and dry. They gain that, they want to ride the fame wave, as I call it, and they leave you high and dry, and they start their own projects and not a lot of helpful people out there. There are some helpful people, and I have encountered my own share, and I love them for that, and will forever thank them for
I
that.
would say globally, like it's always an issue of the people who are the most vocal are also the most toxic. But
yeah,
there's a whole, I think it's a whole silent minority who likes to help, who will give you help. But yeah, there are a bunch of people who really give the community a bad name. Just
and in my case,
it's the usual. Like I think it's gonna be eternally this way. I don't think there's any way of fixing that.
in my case, the most helpful people that I have encountered thus far are 99% French.
Really, because we have a reputation for being very rude and unhelpful.
Well, in my case, I have met a lot of good, helpful people, especially Neo29. Salut Neo29 si tu regardes ça. Neo29, Neo29, basically, very helpful person. He doesn't like to take part into my community because there's a lot of toxic people from time to time. And is it common? I'm just asking out of curiosity. Is it common that in France I meet a lot of pragmatic people?
No, that's a very typical French character trait. Yeah, we tend to be very down to earth most of the time. Like I know like people have this image of the French being like very in their thoughts, like smoking a cigarette with a beret and a baguette, and like, oh, look at the birds, I'm a poet. But that's absolutely not what most people are. Most people just think about their day-to-day lives. They don't look to 2 days further than just today. They're like everybody else. And the image that we're very rude probably comes from people visiting Paris, because yes, people who live in Paris are very rude because they get basically invaded with thousands or millions of tourists every year and they don't like it. And why they don't move, I don't know, but it turns them into very bitter people. That's why I left Paris personally, because I was turning this way as well after 7 years.
Yeah, I love this pragmatism of the fellow people, French people that I have on my server. Neo29, il est pragmatique. He's very pragmatic. He's down to earth. He follows. If it's not on Arch, if it's not reported by Arch, for example, that means it's not a big deal. It's that users can get over it without making a big deal out of it. Like I keep returning to this issue because it was the most annoying issue ever. Grub and XFS, where users with XFS, with the latest, all 3-4 versions of Grub, you would randomly end up with an unbootable system because
that's a problem.
Grub was apparently built against an old version of XFS progs. And now with the XFS main maintainers backing down, XFS is in kind of questionable territory right now.
Yeah, wasn't there a discussion with Linus Torvalds saying that maybe they want to remove it from the kernel or whatever, or not include it anymore? No, maybe it wasn't XFS. It might have been another one.
It was the RiserFS. They dropped it already.
No, RiserFS, but there was another one because it was basically owned by Oracle, and there was a weird problem with the license. But I'm not sure. Maybe it's not
ZFS.
Maybe it's ZFS. Yeah, maybe it's
ZFS. ZFS. No, for XFS, it's still gonna be there, but the maintainer backed down because apparently they were not respecting his work, and they ended up with a lot of important unsolved issues, and everything being shelved, and it was a whole mess. He was and he was treated badly, and he's got his own reasons. He explained them on the Foronix article, and he's burnt out. So he was like, after so many years of maintaining this thing, I'm gonna delegate someone to continue maintaining the thing, but I'm not sure about the future. And I use XFS, so that's for me is like, because XFS is raw copy. It's like when you're copying, it's not putting them in a temporary folder. It's not creating a cache. It's raw copy. So, and it's super fast. And for the large file systems, especially movies, uncompressed 4K movies that are 100 gigs or between 40 and 100 gigs each, you understand it's very useful. So, and I don't see my CPU running at 79-80% when I'm copying, like with XFS with ext4. ButterFS is getting there, but it's not there yet. But ButterFS has the advantage of compression, whereas XFS does not have that.
Yeah.
So I still prefer XFS, but I had to drop XFS from XeroLinux from first being the default to being the third selection. So users,
because if it's broken,
yeah, and I am maintaining Grub now. I have Grub on my own repository, so I'm holding it back to the last working version with XFS. So even if they select XFS, it's gonna work. But I kept it as a third option because what if? I don't want people to encounter issues. And people kept asking me, why don't you set ButterFS as default? Because it's the future. I'm like, I don't use ButterFS and never liked the way it does those, what do you call them?
snapshots.
Snapshotting folders and whatever. So I was like, when I start using it, maybe. But until then, it's there. You can just click the drop-down menu, select it. It's not like I'm stopping you from using it. And that's another thing what I don't understand. I like XeroLinux will not ship Wayland by default until Wayland is equally as stable as X11, if not better. But the option is in the tool. All they have to do is click the button, answer yes, and done deal. It's not like they keep acting as if connection. Connection.
It works for me.
Oh, okay. I saw something freeze.
Yeah, no, it's okay for me.
So they act as if I am completely blocking users from these options.
I mean, people will always like, why is this not the default yet? Well, if we haven't put it as the default, it's probably because there's still something that we consider to be an issue for maybe our own workflow or maybe some users' workflows, and we don't want to force it onto people who might not know how to change it. That's it. It's always a question of, if I make this the default, am I going to create a lot more issues for me to fix or not? And currently, Wayland might work for a lot of people. It works for me. I'm doing this on Wayland currently, and I only use Wayland everywhere on NVIDIA GPUs. But I'm on GNOME. If I used KDE, probably I would not have the same experience with NVIDIA and Wayland. And so putting Wayland as the default for everyone is going to create problems and bug fixes and reports for NVIDIA users. So no, you don't do it just yet if you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, and on GNOME, on NVIDIA GPU, you had to do the kernel parameters for Grub, and you had to.
No, nothing at all. No, I just clicked Wayland in the drop-down menu. On my laptop, I didn't even select anything. It was Wayland by default on Fedora. Nothing to do
Fedora,
with hybrid graphics. And on my desktop, I had to select it because I used Fedora 37 and I used X11 on that. And when I switched to Wayland, I just had to select it in GDM, and now it's the default and it works.
Yeah, because it's Fedora. Fedora does it the right way.
I think they probably already set everything that's needed if they detect an NVIDIA GPU. Or maybe it's in the when you install the drivers from the repo, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's when you install they have a script. They have a script. Yeah. When you do that, it does it. But for me, I don't know how to do it. I still don't know how to do it. So I created a script that will do it for you afterwards. Because the way, if I do it my way, the way I know how to do it, the kernel parameters will be there for AMD users and Intel users, even if they don't have an NVIDIA card. So if you do it in the Calamares, it's going to be there whatever system you have.
Yeah,
so
that's not great.
Yeah, that's not good. So I created the script. The script will do the necessary because there should be in Grub, in the command line Linux, there should be the NVIDIA DRM thingy. Because NVIDIA DRM, of course,
mode set, whatever.
The stuff, and in MK init CPIO, you have to enable the modules, the NVIDIA modules. So it has to put that in the NVIDIA modules in the MK init CPIO. Rebuild, and it's a nightmare. But I like it because it's manual. And you remember back in the 90s, something. It's French. It's typically French. Mécano.
Yeah.
Mécano is
building game where you screw things together yourself.
Yeah, it's all metal and everything. You build your tractor and stuff. Yeah, that's how I was brought up. So the more manual things I have, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's a good approach if you don't like officially support something, having the user do it themselves and not having everything pre-configured right out of the box is a good way of telling them this might
Learn.
break. Like, yeah, this might break. Like you're doing something that is not the official way. That's also why I'm not against GNOME forcing you to do some overrides and some stuff to theme your applications, because now you know it's not officially supported. There is no drop-down menu in GNOME settings to select the theme because they don't want you to do it. If you do it, you're doing it manually, and so you understand that if something breaks, it's on you, it's not on GNOME. And I think it's a healthy way of doing things. Like, you do it manually so you know that if you break stuff, you did it.
That's the philosophy behind XeroLinux. I have been repeating it over and over and over again, but nobody accepts it. It's like we ship a well-configured base, KDE base, to start from, and that's all we do. We stay out of your way. It's the whole point is for it to stay out of your way. You shape it your way, because if we include A, you're gonna say no, I don't like A, I like B.
Yeah.
And then another guy is going to say, yay, you included A. Good thing you didn't include B. And then another guy is going to say, oh, why didn't you include C? And then
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why conversations around everything on Linux turn so weird all the time, because they're like, oh, I can't believe this feature is still not in yet. This thing is unusable. And you're like, well, a lot of people use it without this feature, so maybe like your feature is not the most important thing in the world. Maybe a lot of people don't care about it.
Yeah, and and I'm still overwhelmed when I see so many people telling me XeroLinux is the best distro. I installed Garuda, but it's better than Garuda. I installed Manjaro, it's better than Manjaro. But if it would be great if you included Manjaro's kernel manager tool thingy. I was like, it belongs to Manjaro. Why would I include it in XeroLinux?
Yeah, I don't want to turn XeroLinux into Manjaro.
Yeah, I tried that once.
Yeah, if you want it, go grab it. It's probably on the AUR or anything, so you can probably grab it. Yeah,
I tried it once with because they have a driver manager. It's called MHWD. I tried it. It only works on Manjaro. It doesn't work on XeroLinux.
Yeah, because they probably use like Manjaro's package repo or to do anything.
And not only that, they maintain their own packages related to hardware IDs. So people can fork it, and if you're a low-level developer, you can fork it and make it work on your own distro. But I don't know how to do these things, so I cannot use it. So I tried it. I sunk, and I touché coulé, as we say in French. Touché coulé. And the last subject I want to talk about for this discussion is I want to talk more about the stability of if one has a working environment, an environment that they need to rely on for work. For everyday work, for content creation, for 3D graphics, for whatever it might be. For me, if I were to tell people which distro to go to, I wouldn't say Debian. I used to tell them Debian, but Debian is like Arch, where it's more user involved. User must do a lot of things manually to get it up and running. Okay, it's on a stable base, but still, users who are new cannot understand how to build it to get to where they
if the default doesn't work perfectly for you, it's gonna be a little bit harder to get to where you want it.
That's why for me I would recommend not Mint. I used to recommend LMDE, Linux Mint Debian edition. But then again, it's Debian, so I would still recommend Ubuntu for a lot of people, because Ubuntu uses GNOME. GNOME is very stable, but now I'm having a harder time recommending Ubuntu, because Ubuntu and snaps is not a pretty picture.
That's my main concern and issue with it. Plus, like all the weird stuff Canonical is into, like the Snap Store proprietary backend, the LXD Linux Container Daemon thing, where they just kicked out some maintainers because they didn't work at Canonical. I don't really like their corporate approach to how they're doing things, so I
They're
don't quite
opinionated.
recommend it anymore.
They're very
Yeah.
opinionated, and they're forcing everybody who every official spin of theirs to follow suit.
Yeah,
So,
I don't quite like this approach, but it's
no,
a philosophical problem more than a usability issue. So maybe for users it doesn't matter all that much for them to get into Linux, but yeah, I'm not a fan.
it's because what I'm saying is it's becoming harder and harder to recommend a beginner distro these days because every distro started well, was very user friendly and everything, but they're becoming corporate and opinionated, and the only distro that I would really I would want to recommend is Linux Mint because Clément.
That's the one I still recommend to most people nowadays. It's my like ultimate beginner friendly thing, like Linux Mint. You can't really go wrong. It's easy to use. It has all the graphical tools you might want. It's not super modern. It's not gonna work on every piece of hardware, although they will have an Edge ISO with a newer kernel in it for the next release, which is pretty good. But it's not perfect. It's not something I want to use myself personally, but I think it does the job to get people into Linux.
I would these days I would recommend Pop OS.
Pop OS for me is too old these days. They haven't seen an update in a year and a half.
Well, the desktop
like
environment didn't.
Yeah, but
the packages
they're still based on an older version of GNOME. Their packages are not up to date. They got Mesa and kernel updates, but that's about it. The repos are still based on 20.04, I think, or 22.04.
21, I think. Last one, no?
Or 21.10 maybe. I don't know, but it's an old base, and I'm not sure. Like you're really missing out on a lot of stuff. That's the issue. It's not that it doesn't work. But
that's the thing.
Like you're not getting a great GNOME experience with Pop OS these days.
Well, it's not about getting a GNOME. I'm talking about these kind of users that I see a lot on my server. Like they're like, I'm sick of Windows. I need something else to use, and I don't want it to break on me. I'm like, I can't recommend Ubuntu anymore. I can't recommend Mint because Mint's Cinnamon desktop is. It's the second recommendation. I'll put it as a second recommendation. But my main recommendation is Pop OS because they have the NVIDIA ISO, especially for NVIDIA users. I find it works better than Ubuntu or any other distro because they implement NVIDIA drivers way better. And I've seen the interview that Brody did with one of the maintainers of Pop OS, and he explained how they do it. This is how it should be done.
There's a lot more work going in than just, hey, we've got a package for it. It's installed when you check that checkbox. No, they also do a lot of configuration. They enable graphical switching, like for hybrid laptops, stuff like that. There's a lot of work going in that you might have to do manually if you want to.
In any other distro, no matter what it is. So I tend to recommend Pop OS right now. Maybe my opinion will change in the future. It depends how things go, but I definitely will not recommend KDE as a desktop environment for anyone, any beginner, because it's like unless because there's no way it can be, on no distribution is it stable. No matter how old it is. You will always have the occasional Kwin issues, the occasional stutters here and there, the occasional crashes here and there, system not sleeping. And they said they fixed it, but apparently they didn't because one of my users is still having the close the lid, laptop lid, open it, Kwin has crashed.
I haven't used KDE in as a daily system in a while now because I've been using Fedora GNOME for I think a year or a year and a half, maybe even more. So I used KDE before. I never really had that many problems with it, but yes, you do see more bugs and crashes in the desktop, especially when you have like custom panel layouts and like you have a few Kwin scripts and a few things which are easy to do. So you're thinking, hey, like, why not do them? But if you do them, you're really decreasing the stability of KDE. And I think that's one of the big focus for Plasma 6. They're talking a lot about how they're making Kwin more stable, especially with Wayland, how they really want to have that like finalized great experience from the first version of Plasma 6 to not repeat the KDE 5 cycle, where basically until 5.20 it was a really crashy mess.
Yeah.
And the KDE 4 cycle, which was also pretty terrible as well. But
Yeah.
KDE 3.5 at the time was probably one of the best desktops that
I think
existed.
that's
But
isn't that the one the LXQT is still using or something?
maybe they are still based on this one. Not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, KDE 4 broke everything. They sort of fixed it, but then they re-broke it with KDE 5. And now I think 5.27 is in a good state, but it's probably not as stable as other desktop environments.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the cost of having so many options and so many possibilities. Like the more customization and options you have, the more risk you have of breaking.
Yeah, but that's what makes KDE so awesome for me. It's like, and I'm a person who uses a freaking trackball mouse.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I've been using this since 2018, so I don't know how to use a normal mouse anymore. So I am a mouse user, so a visual experience like KDE is just drag and drop widgets, drag and drop with the mouse. I don't touch the keyboard.
Yeah.
I don't like to create a configuration file. I don't like to remember have to create key bindings for this. I have to set the effects. No. So in the same vein, for new users who want stability, there's an argument floating around about immutable distros.
That's a video that I'm planning for this month. Yeah, talking about this specifically.
Yeah, immutable file systems. I find it not pretty much a beginner user thing. It's more for the advanced user who knows what immutable file systems are, images, and there's a lot of technicalities that you should know about it before you use it. So it's not really a beginner because
I think it's good at the both ends, but not at the middle of the spectrum. Like if you're giving a system to your grandma who only uses like Firefox or Chrome to do her banking stuff and that's it, then immutable system is probably great because she will never install anything, she will never touch anything, and the minute the system randomly breaks because of an update, you can always tell her just select the second option when it boots and you're done. I think that's perfect. If you're doing a bit more than this, like you're a beginner user, but you were sort of experienced on Windows or on macOS, you want to install stuff, you want to customize things, then it's not great. And at the other end of the spectrum, at the far end, you've got like the completely advanced user. He's okay with using containers, with using Flatpaks, with changing overrides, with modifying stuff, with scripts, with layering packages and keeping them through updates. Then sure. But for the middle of the spectrum, not the super beginner or the super advanced user, I think it doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's like for me, I'm in the middle because I'm not I'm not too much into development and I'm not a beginner.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle and I'm looking like, okay, I will update more often than other users will. It will break on me. I will have to do this. I will have to do that. It's more complex. But like you said, for a grandma or somebody, they're going to update. And if it breaks, maybe you got a point. They just select the second option. They're good to go. So route B or route A, whichever.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy. And I think it's okay. Like it's still a in development thing on Linux, much like Flatpak is still evolving and Wayland is still evolving, and they're not perfect for every use case. Maybe there's a point in the future where they're perfect for everyone, but they don't have to. Like they can live side by side. You can have like normal Linux distros and immutable systems for those who want them. They fit both use cases. They fit different use cases, and I think they work both equally well for different people.
Yeah, and there's another, which brings me to another aspect of the distribution for the stability and stuff is the what I was going to the distributions that concentrate on Flatpaks and nothing but Flatpaks, or snaps, or a single package management, or on the other end of the spectrum, the distributions that try to cater to everyone, that allow you to use apt, Pacman, and whatever through DistroBox containers. So I'm like, you got either you got very opinionated distros that say we are beginner user friendly because we support only our package manager and no other ones, and we need everybody to follow suit. Or you got the other ones, hey, use whichever package manager you want. We include them all out of the box. I call those like what's it called? Vanilla
OS. Yeah.
Vanilla OS is a recipe for disaster. Whereas,
well, in my experience, it works really well because since
your experience,
yeah, and I'm saying that, like, from my experience, it works really well because you install the app in a container. Like, the biggest risk that you have is that your container gets destroyed or something, and then your app and its data will also get destroyed. That's the biggest risk. You can't mismatch dependencies because they're not installed on the same base. So you're not going to break your base system. You're only potentially breaking your containers. But I don't think it's a user-friendly way of doing things. I think it's for advanced users. It's not for beginners.
Because it was touted as being a beginner. Huh?
I don't have audio anymore.
Oh, you lost my audio?
Is it on my end? No.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not.
Sorry. Well, we're back. Not that we were live, but it's okay. Connection issues, usual in Lebanon. We're going to finish with, I had a thought in mind. I need to not forget to mention this. Not only immutable file systems are the up-and-coming things. There are distributions that include way too much out of the box. They call themselves stable and beginner user friendly. If I were to create a user friendly distro, it will not be based on Arch. That will be a mistake. And I learned that the hard way. I would build it on Debian or mostly on Debian. I will create it on the Debian base, but I will have everything out of the box ready, and I will use GNOME as the desktop environment because this is the best desktop environment for beginner users. GNOME, to me, does things right because I have a MacBook, and I experience the MacBook on a daily basis. I've never had to restore my MacBook since I bought it in 2016 because it's that stable. As long as you use it the right way and the way it was intended to be used. Same exactly with GNOME. GNOME, I think they adopted the macOS philosophy while being free and open source. Sure. And and when we say free, it's freedom of choice, not free as monetary, because that's a problem.
Yeah, basically what they do is say, this is our way of doing things, and that's it. Like, no, the feature that you want to add that is in KDE, it doesn't fit our way, so it doesn't go in. And yes, you have developed the code, but that doesn't force us to accept it. So no, we're not taking it. You can offer it to other desktops, but us, GNOME, we won't do it.
Yeah,
and the end result is that, yes, first, it's very stable. Second, people say it's heavy. It's not heavier than KDE or others, not in my experience. It uses the same. It's about 1 gig of RAM. If you have 16 gigs of RAM, it uses the same on everything. And I know some people will say, oh, my KDE only uses 350 megabytes of RAM. You're not counting the same thing. You're just counting the RAM for the KDE Plasma desktop, not everything that is cached. That's why people think GNOME is heavy, because the GNOME System Monitor counts all the RAM that is also cached and preloaded, which
GNOME also loads a big chunk of it itself in RAM.
Yeah.
So
and the other thing that GNOME does nicely is coherency and visual appearance. Like, GNOME has the most complete ecosystem of applications on Linux that follow the guidelines to the letter. The exact same thing that you would find on macOS, where every developer wants their app to look like a official Apple app. We have the same thing for GNOME. All the libadwaita apps look exactly like if there were core parts of GNOME shipped with GNOME. They look the same, they have the same UI, and that's something you don't find on any other desktop environment. Even on KDE, you have differences, with some have hamburger menus, some have menu bars. Small differences, but differences. On GNOME, you don't have that. It's super smooth to use for everyone who begins with computers.
Even Nikolove one of the developers in KDE who makes videos. He's very vocal. He's, I think, the media part of KDE.
I think he's been doing a great job. Like he's really, really clever in the way he talks about things and really open. It's awesome.
Yeah, and he talked how he envied that ecosystem from GNOME. They have an ecosystem of apps that cannot be surpassed by any desktop environment. That hasn't been surpassed.
I would say the only thing that surpasses it is macOS, because yes, they do force app developers to use their technology. But I think even on Windows, sure, you have more apps and they can probably do more than the GNOME apps, but they will never look coherent as GNOME apps do. You get the features, but you don't get the ease of use and the coherent experience.
And I'm noticing lately that more and more apps, as they come out as GTK apps.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's very few Qt apps in comparison to GTK ones. Like,
and I don't know, is it because the documentation maybe is better for GNOME? I always heard it was the opposite, like the KDE documentation for developing was better, but maybe it's just that you have that libadwaita tool that lets you like use the widgets, they're already ready, you don't have to invent anything, but KDE also has that. So I don't really know why. Maybe it's because a lot of distros use GNOME as the default, like Ubuntu, Fedora, and a bunch of others.
Maybe because the last time I went on FlatHub, like a few days ago, I was like, latest apps added. I go always to that section of FlatHub. I'm like, they're all GTK apps. What the hell is going on? Where are Qt? Where are my Qt apps? There are almost no Qt apps in there, besides the usual KDE apps like Dolphin and whatever. And basically now the Plasma Desktop meta package on Arch Linux, or the meta package on any distro. Basically, what KDE is made of. All these packages have Flatpak alternatives now. 90% of them have Flatpak alternatives. But Flatpak is also not perfect because permissions.
Yeah, and even with perfectly configured permissions, which a lot of apps don't have perfectly configured permissions, so you have to fix them manually to enable some stuff. Even if everything is fully configured, there are still some gaps. There are still some problems. For example, in LibreOffice, some extensions don't work, probably because the app doesn't have access to the right path, or it tries to install something, but the path for the Flatpak is different. You have the same problem for password managers and web browsers, where some external password managers cannot talk to the browser because native messaging is not implemented yet. There are still some problems and some hiccups. And yes, it does use a little bit more disk space at first. Not after a while, because if you only use Flatpaks, then you basically can get rid of the shared libraries that your regular packages would use. And so you're actually using almost the same space. But yes, there are some issues. So it's not perfect, but it's still a very good packaging format if you don't want to think about things. Like you click install, it works. You don't have dependencies to handle. If you uninstall something else, it's not going to break your app randomly. It's just easy.
The only problem I have with Flatpaks is when it comes to Wayland. On Wayland, like for OBS, for some reason, they don't have the Wayland box ticked on by default.
The permissions are incorrectly set.
So you have to set it. You have to set it manually, and there's fallback to Wayland to X11, and they need to fix those issues. But and some apps you cannot share the screen, you cannot do this, you cannot do that.
Yeah, generally apps that are based on older Electron versions don't have good Wayland support, and so even with the permissions, it doesn't work because they don't support. They don't have the Electron version that supports the screen sharing portal and stuff like that. And so it's a work in progress. But I have no doubt that it's probably the only shot we have at having one packaging format that is used across almost every distro. We never had that. Like app images never had that shot. Snaps do not have that shot just because the store is proprietary. No one will want to implement that apart from Ubuntu. Well, or at least not as the default. But Flatpak, once it's finished or once it's like ready enough for most use cases and all use cases, then yes, why not use that? Like the disk space doesn't really matter today. Like if it uses 10 gigs more than the packages, like You have at least 128 gigs of storage on your disk. 10 gigs is nothing. Who cares? And most people have 1 terabyte. And in 5 years, when Flatpak has solved most of these native messaging and other use cases, the default disk space will be 2 terabytes.
Yeah.
You won't care about 10 gigs. No one cares.
Yeah, and but the only thing that there's another issue I have with Flatpaks is they still use the HTTP protocol mostly, not the HTTPS.
Yeah,
and
that's not great.
Yeah, and their servers are slow. Like I know what my connection can handle. I can.
You mean FlatHub?
FlatHub, sorry.
Yeah.
FlatHub should work on their server backend because I was in Serbia, and so I had in the Airbnb no less a $25 a night Airbnb. They had gig down, gig up.
Yeah.
And when I was updating my Flatpaks, they were still going at like 250 kilobytes per second. Some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have these issues, but I do notice that it's slower than, and that's saying something. It's slower than DNF on Fedora, which is actually very slow for a package manager.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to, you notice, since you have an NVIDIA card, you notice that sometimes you end up with multiple NVIDIA packages, Flatpak updates, like the GL32, the GL32 for multiple versions of NVIDIA. They fixed that issue finally, where now it will detect which ones are in use, will keep those, but the ones no longer in use, it will remove them.
Yeah, that's been an issue as well. It doesn't auto-remove stuff that isn't used anymore, so it's good if they work on that. But it's not a perfect packaging format, but I think it has the potential to finally say to any developer for Linux, like, okay, you want to make an app for Linux? Make it a Flatpak. Like that's our format. Like, yes, you can if you want make a deb package or an RPM or a package for the AUR. You can if you want, but by default, this is the format. It's Flatpak. It's gonna work everywhere. Don't waste your time. Just do this one.
This is my perfect distro for beginners. GNOME, based on Debian, with everything set up for the user and Flatpaks. That's it. And leave everything else to the user. Let them install whatever they want. Don't configure things out of the box left and right because maybe users are not gonna like it. I'm not going to do that. I am foreseeing that once XeroLinux is done for and I have nothing to do anymore, it will stay out there as is and with bug fixes and stuff. But I might start working on a good Debian
beginner
GNOME,
distro,
beginner distro where. And we shouldn't hold users' hands. This is another thing. Maintainers should not hold users' hands and teach users to be self-reliant. This is on the Arch side of things because Arch is so moving and everything. It's impossible for one maintainer to be able to support all their different hardware. When it comes to Debian, nothing will break. So shouldn't break unless the user is.
If you use Debian stable, there's no reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking in the future to start learning how to work on something on Debian and come up with something with vanilla GNOME. I think such things exist already. I think Debian GNOME edition already exists.
Well, but Debian with GNOME is exactly that, except you don't have the ease of use for installing NVIDIA drivers and stuff like that.
I might work on these aspects and make it beginner user. It's an idea I have. But we need to stop telling users, and because today I woke up to a message telling me I never used Linux. I'm sick of Windows, and I'm trying to install XeroLinux, and I'm unsuccessful. I'm like, you've never touched Linux before? He was like, no, I just want to see if that works. I was like, you're coming to the wrong distro. Yeah. I told him, did you read the blurb? He was, no. There's a blurb on my website that explains what Arch is, basically. He was like, oh, thank you for being so honest with me and not forcing me to use your distro because you are the maintainer. I was like, I will never force you to use my distro. No. I am open. I am a realist. I don't want people to sink before they know how to swim. Yeah. So,
if we're talking about the famous French pragmatism, like if you force, or at least if you encourage someone who doesn't know anything to use your distro, it's going to just generate a lot of work, because now that you've helped them fix the first issue, they're going to come back to you for others. And if you don't want to deal with that because you're not a beginner-friendly distro, then you might just say, you know what? Yes, thank you for trying my distro, but I don't think it's the right choice for you. You should probably try this or that instead, and that's better for everyone. You're not
Yeah,
confusing someone, you're not ruining their first Linux experience, and you're not generating more work for yourself.
yeah. And before we end, because we're at the end, I want to ask you. You see, you are a person like me who is really into Linux, and you see everything coming out and left and right. Those distros who try to who are trying to reinvent the wheel. Do you see them surviving, or do you see them short-lived, or do you recommend they stop, like XeroLinux, right?
What kind of distribution?
Like Rhino, like this new one, Rhino Linux. They're trying to reinvent the wheel. Where I see it, this is how I see it, because they're adding more complexity to something that we don't need more complexity. For me, at the end of the day, for Linux to strive, it needs to become easier and easier to use, not more complex and more complex and more complex. That's gonna be that, because Linux, when it started, when I first got introduced to Linux, I heard a lot of people saying that Linux is for the hackers, Linux is for the developers.
Me too.
Linux.
The first time I told a friend that I was trying to install Linux on my laptop, they looked at me like I was crazy and I was gonna go to jail.
Yeah.
Like, what? You're gonna fry your hard drive? You're gonna destroy your computer? Are you sure you just bought it? And I was like, that's not true.
Yeah.
No. Why would you think that?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, we should stop trying to reinvent the wheel and contribute upstream and help Linux become more easier and more user friendly.
My opinion on this is that it's not the same kind of people who are making these new reinventing the wheel distros and the people who are trying to make what already exists more user friendly. I think they are mostly personal projects and they're publishing them and they're saying, if someone's interested in that, here it is.
That's
If
not
they
wrong.
survive or not, I personally don't really care. These are things that I would never use personally for myself because I want something that has a sizable community behind it, that is well supported, that will, like we said, that will work in production. I don't want to turn my computer on in the morning and it not working or not booting up. If this happens, I'm changing systems. I'm not even trying to fix it. I'm reinstalling something else. This is a big problem for my productivity. It prevents me from getting my work done. It prevents me from making money. So no, I don't want to use a system like this where I have to use another device to go online and to try to find a solution. No way. You're gaining a reinstall of something else.
Yeah.
And this is having these distros is great, and these are the ones that have to be worked on to get more user friendly, collaborate with upstream. Having those personal projects and smaller stuff like Rhino Linux, like, I don't know, maybe Vanilla OS or Blend OS or whatever, they're trying something new. I think it's fun. I think it's fun that it exists. I would not use them personally for a day-to-day use, but I think it's nice that these projects are trying something else. Will they survive? Probably not. Should they be recommended to someone who starts with Linux? Absolutely not. But they're here and they can be fun.
Yeah, and those are, you are thinking, the way you're talking about it makes me think they're just community distributions. They're just community distributions to be used or not. It's up to the user. But the things that should be trusted are the ones who are backed by a big development team, a big, not corporations. We're not talking about corporations.
Not necessarily a company.
No, a big team.
But just a big community of developers who work on them. And at least if you want something really stable and that's really well supported and that you'll find help from, you either go to a distro made by a company or you go to a distro that has a large community. So you go to the Ubuntus, to the Fedoras, or if you prefer community, to Arch and Debian. But those are the ones that you should turn yourself to if you really want something where you can get help and when you know your experience is relatively polished.
Yeah, and final word is, do you recommend Linux for gamers?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, but not for every gamer. For single-player gamers.
Yes, that's why.
If you play single player, there's probably no major game that doesn't work on Linux, I think. For multiplayer, it really depends on what you play, but with anti-cheat being what it is, it's still not perfect.
Like Overwatch.
Yeah, well, Overwatch 2 apparently works. They've
Overwatch
just
from
released it
Steam.
on Steam. Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably works, but yeah, I personally do not care about multiplayer games. I never play them. Like cooperative games like Warhammer Darktide or Vermintide, yes, I love those. But competitive multiplayer that has like tons of weird DRMs and anti-cheat, I never play them. I don't find them fun. I always rage quit these things. I'm bad at them. I don't like them. So I'm mostly a single player gamer. Yeah.
Same here.
No.
Plus, I cheat, so I would be kicked off anyway.
Whoops.
or I play. I'm gonna say it in French. Maybe Google will not flag it. Pirate.
Yeah. Yeah, you what do they call it? Privateering.
Privateering. Yeah, I'm playing privateered games. So no online anyway for me. So
Yeah.
the only game I would play online is Diablo 4. So
Yeah.
because it's not against each other, it's just helping each other out, giving each other loot, whatever. But yes, play games on Linux. Linux is pretty good. I have played God of War, Diablo 2 remastered, Diablo 4, Diablo 3, Diablo 2, no, Diablo 1 via Devolution X. What else did I play? Overwatch, StarCraft 2, and so many games I played on it, and every one of them works. And if you want to play, I just want to I want to repeat this because people think that you need Lutris, you need bottles to play especially for GOG games. Well, if you have Wine installed on your system, which you should, you just double click on the setup exe, next, install it, and run the game. All you need is Wine. You don't need Proton, you don't need Steam, you don't need any launcher. Save your system from launchers. If you want a launcher, just keep Steam, but don't install Epic, Heroic, and bottles.
If you have Epic games from the Epic Game Store, Heroic is a great way of playing them because it's basically the same ease of use of Steam, but for Epic games.
I would say this to the Epic Games owners. Why are you giving Epic your money?
Yeah, of course. But maybe me personally, I have like 50 games on the Epic Game Store. I haven't bought a single one. They're all free games that they give out. So, I mean, Heroic lets me play them, but I never do because most of those games I already did on another place.
There is one game.
Me personally, I haven't booted a Windows computer to play games for, I think it's been 5 years since I started this channel. I haven't needed to. All the games I want to play work on Linux. When Cyberpunk was released, I played it on Linux day one, and it ran better than on my friends' computers on PC on Windows. I played God of War, I played the Spider-Man games, I played Horizon Zero Dawn. Every AAA release I wanted on single player ran on Linux day one or day two with a patch from Valve.
What we are saying here, people, is that Linux is no longer the hidden thing that you should be scared of. Linux games are possible on Linux, if not better than Windows these days, because of nothing running in the background while you're playing.
Because you've got these translation layers that obviously will take away like 1, 2 to 5% performance, but the system itself is so much lighter, and you've got game mode pre-installed on most systems, which gives all your CPU power to the game. So generally, you might even get better FPS, especially for games that use Vulkan natively and not DirectX. You might get better performance on Linux than on Windows for some games. Not every game, but for some games.
Definitely. Like Doom Eternal. It runs at 140 FPS full bore on my old 1080 on Linux when it runs at 40 on Windows. So, because it's a native Vulkan game. So,
and Vulkan on Linux is just wonderfully well optimized.
So people, don't be afraid of Linux. That's my last word. Don't be afraid of Linux. There will be a lot of experimentation until you reach until you find the distro that's perfect for you. So I don't recommend you set up every distro that you try as if it was the last distro that you're going to be trying. Don't test on VMs, please. This
does not give a
Yeah.
good impression of how things will run. First, it doesn't let you test your hardware, so you don't know if it's gonna run well. And second, the performance is trash. So it's not gonna feel smooth. It's not gonna feel good. Sometimes you won't even get effects enabled, so your window, when you click minimize, will just disappear. It's gonna feel like Windows 95 in most cases. Don't do it. Yeah.
Don't do VMs because you won't even know if it's compatible with your hardware or not.
Yeah.
They
are live. Most distributions, if not all of them, have those live USB things. They're made to test the system on real hardware. So use that. Don't do VMs.
Yeah, like people were telling me to get rid of my live environment. Why would I get rid of my live environment if I want people to boot XeroLinux without installing it and testing it?
They're one of the major advantages of Linux over any other operating system. You can try it before you buy it. Well, before you install it, because you don't have to buy it generally.
But and with the new feature of Ventoy today, the persistent storage, you can just boot the ISO, install whatever you want, do whatever you want, and keep your settings.
So you can try the system out for like 2 weeks or a month if you want by still storing some files and keeping your session and everything. And when you decide that, okay, you know what? Yes, I found solutions for every single one of my problems. Then you install it to the hard drive and you're done. But experiment. It's a new thing. Like if you don't know Linux, you're going to have to experiment and you're going to have to relearn things that you already know how to do, for example, on Windows. So just because it doesn't behave exactly like Windows doesn't mean it's bad or whatever. It means that you have to learn the new way of doing things.
But that's the thing. Il y a tellement de monde that there's a lot of people that expect Linux to behave exactly like Windows. Like,
of course not. Yeah, you wouldn't expect that from a Mac. When you buy a Mac, you don't expect it to run like Windows.
There's a lot of people. No, there's a lot of people because I used to work in a computer in a Mac reseller store.
Where's my start menu?
Where's my start menu? How do I do DLL files? How do I do this? I'm like, you're using it the wrong way.
You don't.
The worst part of me selling MacBooks in the store was when I sold MacBooks for users to tell me install Windows on Boot Camp and I want 3D Studio Max. I want 3D Studio Max. I want AutoCAD. I want this on Windows. I was like, why are you spending $3,000 on a MacBook?
Mac? Buy a Windows laptop. What are you doing?
Save yourself a couple of $1,000s and buy yourself a Windows machine and oh my God. Anyway, so there will be a lot of experimenting. Do and back up everything you're testing and everything. Have a backup that you keep getting back to, but don't be afraid of Linux anymore. Linux has reached a place where it can be used as a daily. I have a friend who has never touched Linux in his life. He prefers Linux to Windows. Well, he doesn't even know how to update. I have to run the update command for him remotely. Because he doesn't want to touch, he's too afraid to do this, he's too afraid to do that.
And he doesn't want to open the App Store and click update. Well,
I didn't. Well, when I tell you that the App Store that I have on XeroLinux is Pamac, you would understand why.
Yeah, I understand it.
Yeah, Pamac hit update. Pamac, you hit update, it reloads the update page. Failed to synchronize database. Okay, whatever.
Then you have to click checkbox, then click apply, whatever. Then it looks super weird. And it's not. It's not user-friendly.
And with him not being a terminal kind of guy, although Windows has copied Linux, and now WinGet is superb on Windows.
Yeah, but it's still command line only, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is Windows is copying Linux, it's having like update WinGet update all. It will update every single application, but it's not the same way as Linux where it will just update. It will download the setup exe, launch it, and then you have to click the next.
It's still super weird, and like it's gonna leave debris everywhere. And
well, they're trying. They're trying.
It's Windows. It's a mess. It's always been a mess. So
they're trying at least. But love Linux. Enjoy Linux. If you really don't like Windows, don't let people bully you into selecting their distro because it's the best or that desktop environment.
For yourself.
Try yourself. do not. And if I would recommend something, and this is going to be a little bit anti myself, because I run a community on Discord, try as best as you can not to join communities for now, because there you will find yourself more confused than when you started, because there will be a lot of toxicity in there. I am part of a lot of communities on Discord, and when I say I'm including this on XeroLinux, I just lit a fire.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna attack me. So try your best not to be part of any community. Learn on your own and be self-reliant, because this is the only way you're going to survive on Linux. If you don't want to do,
let's be honest, the first problems you're gonna encounter with Linux, you will find better help and easier help just by looking up some help articles or videos online than asking in a community. Because if you ask like, hey, do you know how I can reconfigure my Wi-Fi network because I saved the wrong password and for some reason it doesn't connect? If you go on Discord or somewhere else to ask help for that, people are just going to tell you to uninstall your network applet or whatever, because they don't care. If you go onto any forum, any already written article that is unmoving and it's not people interacting with you, you'll find your answer. You join the community when you know your way around the system, when you want to talk about things, when you know what you're talking about, and when you want to have opinions about things. But when you want to fix your system at the beginning for beginner problems, just look at forums, look at articles, look at videos. You're going to get way better help and you're going to end up way less confused.
There's a lot of video guides online that helped me personally to fix and implement those fixes into my into XeroLinux. But do not interact with anyone. This is something, it's coming from deep down, because I've been there. I've seen it's a dark pit that if you're a beginner, you're gonna find a hard time getting out of that dark pit, because
but chances are the first answer to your question will be, why do you even want to do this?
Exactly.
And you're gonna be like, because it doesn't work. And yes, but somebody is going to explain to you that you're using the thing wrong and that you shouldn't try to fix it, but you should use this instead. And it's going to confuse you because you're going to think that on Linux you can't do what you're looking to do. But yes, you can. It's just that the first person who answered thought that what you're using was bad and they wanted you to install something else.
I am
Don't
not
talk
immune
to people when you're beginning. Yeah,
I am not immune to that. I do that to some users. I just I don't do it exactly that way. I just tell them, well, I'm not having the issue. You must be doing it wrong. I sometimes say that when I find myself.
It's a guilty pleasure.
It's not a guilty pleasure, but on the contrary, for me, it makes me feel very, very weird in a negative way that I mistreated the user, and I have to think about it. It gives me. It gives me a lot of these anxieties in my head, so I stop doing it completely, and I answer in a very friendly way. I say, there are many ways to fix your issues, but you're the only one who can test the solutions. So I'll guide you to the correct place, and then you test.
You can find something and try it out.
Yeah. But like recently with Python, did you watch the Brody Python video? Pep 638 or whatever. Arch finally implemented the update that Python shipped like months ago, and that Ubuntu had already.
Where I thought Arch was supposed to be always up to date.
Yeah. This is the confusion that I'm having about Arch, but where you where you get the message when you try to install a Python package via Python install, you get the extremely managed block of text, and it will tell you explain how to use it. Finally, Arch included it, but they included it without the guide. They forgot the guide. They completely update the man pages.
Right.
And when you go on Stack Exchange to look for the solution, oh my God, delete the extremely managed binary. So or use the -- break my system flag. So you're basically instructing users to break their system. Why did Python change to a different method if you're telling them to go back to the old method?
Yeah.
Now somebody mentioned on Discord the other day that some packages require the old method because they don't work. Or Brody mentioned it. It was like some like DWM or something, some window manager, Qtile or whatever. If you do it the new way, it won't work. The old way would work. So sometimes in some niche cases, because that project refused to update to the new Python, it's not Python's fault. It's the project's fault. But
and this is why I hate all these things like pip or npm or stuff like that. Like, you're trying to replace a package manager. Go away. Let people install packages from their repositories or from another source. You are not the package manager to install libraries. Go away. Why do you do this? Why do you need me to install Python and then packages in Python through Python? Like, let me install the library for my system that is probably in my repos.
Not all packages. That's the problem. Not all packages are on the distros repos.
Yeah, but then the Python application that ships should have all the libraries already packaged with the application. Then you shouldn't have to install them through a separate package manager that is not the one your system uses. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but
hey, make a Flatpak. You can ship all your Python libraries in there. Oh wow, it works.
Yeah. I was gonna say that, but now people are switching to Pipex
or an app image or Snap or whatever. Don't ask people to install Python libraries to yet another method of installing stuff that only works with Python. Come on.
Unfortunately, this is the way of window managers these days. They install a lot of Python stuff. So if they want to install, I would recommend them to install using Pipex, because the right way of doing things according to Python is running Python install virtual environment. It will create the binary, and then you have to symlink the binary and do this and do that.
Nope, not doing that.
Pipex does that for you, and done deal. So
plus Pipex is relatively secure compared to the old.
Oh, I lost you. Oops. All right, so I'm gonna finish finally by saying don't feel that you can recommend something to others when you are not sure that you will be using it for yourself. This is very important in Linux. If you're not sure,
basically, if you're not okay to keep supporting someone, like you're saying, hey, you should. Oh, you're beginning with Linux. Use Arch. Are you willing to help this user through their issues with Arch? If not, don't recommend Arch. Recommend something else.
Exactly. So, but you, the end user, use whatever works for you. Ignore what anyone says. Keep testing around, doing the feely thing. I'm not saying boobies here. I'm saying feely.
I don't think distros have boobies.
So feel around, keep trying, testing things until you find the distro for you. Be happy, and if you want to ask for help, like Nick said, watch videos, go to read articles. But
and if you cannot find anything online to fix your issue, like all the keywords you tried don't work, there's no articles, there's no videos, nothing works, then sure, go onto a forum or a community. But just first, try to find an article. Just don't ask your question like straight off the bat. Somebody's going to tell you, read the manual, you noob, and you're not going to feel good.
Yeah, and whatever you do, don't mention the distro's name unless you're using Ubuntu or the big names. But if you're using a something like Endeavor or XeroLinux or ArcoLinux, don't go to the Arch forums and say, I'm using those distributions. Just say, I'm using Arch. Because what all of us are Arch. We're only 10% custom. And what is
but if
custom?
You say you don't use regular Arch, people are just going to not want to help you because, you're not using Arch, you're not getting any support. Go away.
Yeah, go away, and you're going to get banned. Because they do ban. They love the ban button. So, with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching and reaching this, if you reach the end. Because rare people reach the end. We know that. You will find me anywhere on the internet, but mainly you will find me on Discord. if you want to talk to me. I'm currently on vacation. It started yesterday. I'll be back next month. And if you're watching it later, that now is August. I'm going to be back in September. If you're watching it in 2024, it has already been passed. So.
Probably everything we talked about is fixed now.
Yeah, probably everything is fixed now. So disregard. And you will find me on Mastodon, fostodon.org to be exact, and it's XeroLinux at XeroLinux. I no longer use TechZero, but when I left, I need my private handle on X or Twitter or whatever.
Oh no, I don't use this anymore.
X videos, Keka?
Hell no. Hell no. Never.
I changed my handle to XeroLinux OP to have the account to convert the account for XeroLinux, but I want to keep my TechZero handle for my private stuff. Somebody took it already.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna leave this X thing because I don't want to call my dad, tell him I'm watching an X video, and for him to think I'm telling him I'm watching a porn video.
Yep.
Elon Musk must have been high on something when he did that.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, so you'll find me there. There will be those occasional videos from time to time on my YouTube channel. And for anyone, this will be available to, not Patreon because I deleted Patreon. This will be available for channel members for 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, it's going to be available to the general public. So, yeah, thank you, Nick. Enjoyed
Thanks
the
for
chat.
having me.
It's always good to have a chat with somebody who is on the same level.
Yeah.
Although I'm the old man here. You're a young boy.
Young boy.
Hey, you're my kid brother's. You're my kid brother's
I don't see
age.
myself like this. Yeah, well, 36 is almost 36 is.
Oh, 36? Younger than my younger brother. My youngest brother. You're 36. My youngest brother is 39. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I look older because of all the white here and there.
Us Mediterraneans we get white hair before anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's always a blast talking to you, my friend. And with that, tell them where they can reach you if they're ignorant and they've been living under a rock for some reason.
Yeah, well, I do videos on YouTube about Linux. The channel is called The Linux Experiment, and you can also follow me on Mastodon at The Linux EXP. And I think that's about it. Well, I also have a podcast, weekly podcast, where I talk about Linux and open source news, and you can also follow it on Mastodon. It's called TLE News Podcast, or you can go to podcast.thelinuxexp.com for the website. And it's also on any podcast client if you want, of course.
All right. I can say goodbye and live... if I can do it. Live long... Oh, tu peux le faire mieux que moi, toi. Live long and prosper.
Yeah.
And peace and long life. Allez. Ciao.